Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT10, and BT10 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be a new iteration on a purple loop deck. Except this time it's going to be focused around Minervamon. So we're still going to be utilizing the Cerberumon package as our core engine that we want to use to loop it to be able to gain some extra memory and have some extra aggressive plays, with Minervamon and Revive from the Darkness being the cards that we're going to be using to enable this new style of loop, to delete our Minervamon and then be able to play both our Cerberumon and our Cerberumon Werewolf Mode to be able to gain a lot of extra memory and be extra aggressive with, and do various different things depending on the situations and setups that are presented. So, on to the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Minervamon. So, Minervamon is still one of the best, if not the best, generic Digitama that Purple has, just because I think that looting is a little bit better than self-milling, especially in a more combo-heavy deck where we need to see our specific parts and pieces, and we need to set up our trash in a particular way. So, Minervamon's on-delete inheritable ability of drawing 1 card and then discarding 1 card from our hand just helps accomplish us that a little bit better than just generically trying to fill up our trash with some self-milling. And with that being said, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gabumon. So this is the BT2 version of Gabumon, and again, it's doing something very similar to Minervamon, where it has a nice inheritable ability of on delete, allowing us to draw 2 cards and discard 1. So in combination with Minervamon, we're going to be drawing 3 cards and discarding 2, which is just seeing a lot of cards and allowing us to be able to set up our trash with whatever we need in there. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Gazimon. So this is the BT3 version of Gazimon, and this Gazimon is in here just because it's acting as an anti-meta Floodgate rookie to try to stop the opponent from doing some memory manipulating shenanigans, forcing them to deal with Gazimon before they can make their plays even more efficient than they normally would. So he has the All Turns ability where the opponent can't gain memory except by tamer effects, really locking and limiting some of their possible actions. Next, I'm going to be playing 3 copies of Psychmon. So Psychmon is another anti-meta Floodgate rookie to try to stop the opponent from reducing their play costs, making it so that they're going to have to play their cards fairly, or they're going to have to get rid of Psychmon, which again, like Gazimon, is going to take away some of their resources that they do want to already be using to make their plays even more efficient, making Gazimon just another easy card to want to include into the deck to try to stop it and stall the opponent out while we're building up to our combo. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Gazimon X Antibody. So Gazimon X Antibody is a pretty decent card. Milling isn't necessarily my favorite thing to do in combo decks, but sometimes we do need to fill up our trash relatively quickly to be able to turn some of our card effects online as fast as we possibly can. So its Wind Digivolving ability allows us to trash the top 3 cards of our deck to just help get some cards into our trash, on top of the fact that it's an extra cycle just because it's Digivolving for 0 on top of a Gazimon, so that way we can actually get its Wind Digivolving ability off. Next, on to the level 4s, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Ginkakumon Promote. So Ginkakumon Promote is a pretty decent card just because he could Digivolve for 1 on top of a level 4, allowing us to cycle our deck through evolution, or we could Digivolve him for 2 on top of a level 3, or ideally we're going to try hard playing this card just because he natively has the rush ability, so that way we could just attack with him even if we Digivolve up after hard playing a Digimon. It's just a really good card to add for lots of flexibility, even though this style of deck isn't necessarily trying to get his on-play ability off. You could tech and tweak the deck to be able to incorporate that to make a better use of this card, but at worst, it's just a very flexible card that allows us to do a lot of different things. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Eismon Scatter Mode. So Eismon Scatter Mode is another card to just act as a solid consistency tool, just for its on-delete ability, allowing us to draw 3 cards and then discard 2 cards from our hand. So this, in combination with Gabumon, in combination with Minervamon, just allows us to see 6 cards and discard 4 of them, so that's just a lot of cards to dig through all at once, and a lot of cards to set up in your trash, just for swinging it with an Eismon Scatter Mode and hoping it's going to get deleted in the security, but even at at worst, we still have ways to be able to delete it ourselves to be able to enable some really strong combo play. And then because we are running Eismon Scatter Mode, I'm going to be also running one copy of Eismon as one of the best discard fodder cards to just spawn an extra body on the field with. This extra body could combo nicely with Ginkakumon Promote, because then we could Digivolve on top of him and then be able to swing with the Promote right away. But at worst, just having a level 4 to be able to Digivolve into a level 5 with is super valuable. And even at worst, this is still going to be a pretty aggressive level 4 if we don't want to or can't Digivolve on top of them, just because for each Eismon Scatter Mode that we have in our trash, we get to have this Digimon gain plus 2000 DP, so ideally we're going to have our Eismon Scatter Mode delete itself. Then we're going to want to draw lots of cards and discard one cards. Ideally one of those cards is going to be Eismon to be able to play this card for free with. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Devimon. So this is the starter deck version of Devimon, and this is going to be the deck's dedicated blocker. So if you really wanted to, you could run Vilemon in this place, but I do value the tempo and efficiency that going up into Devimon means, because that way we could climb the stages a little bit faster than what the opponent might be anticipating, just because he evos for 1. Next up, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Cerberumon, and the Cerberumon, like the Eismon Scatter Mode, has an on-delete ability that's helping our overall consistency. So he has the on-delete ability similar to Gabumon's, where we get to draw 2 cards and then trash 1. So in combination with Gabumon and Demi-Meramon, we're still going to be drawing 5 cards and discarding 3, which isn't as good as Eismon Scatter Mode, but it's still better than nothing to be able to dig through and set up what we need to. But ideally, Cerberumon is in the deck mostly to be able to have some good combo play with Cerberumon Werewolf Mode. Granted, the consistency factor is always nice off of his on-delete ability, but we're able to trigger that on-delete ability just because Cerberumon Werewolf Mode has a nice on-play ability where we get to delete 1 Cerberumon from our field to be able to gain 9 memory. Ideally, we're going to be trying to revive him and be able to gain the on-play ability to just be able to set up and gain 9 memory, which is just a lot of extra memory to be working with to make some very powerful follow-up plays with. And then on top of that, Cerberumon Werewolf Mode natively has the Rush ability, so when he's hard played, we could still use him as a body to be swinging with to gain some extra aggro. Next, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Lucemon Chaos Mode. So Lucemon Chaos Mode is a card that we're trying to play off of our abilities to be able to revive our level 5 Digimon, just so we could try to get his on-play ability off where we get to delete one of the opponent's tamers or level 6 or lower Digimon. And one of the main cards, if not the main card that's allowing us to utilize them, is going to be 4 copies of Minervamon. So Minervamon natively has the retaliation ability, so it kind of de-incentivizes the opponent from wanting to attack indoor, on top of the fact that if they have a suspended Digimon that's larger than Minervamon, then we're freely and wanting to swing into them to be able to get that body off the field. Then on top of that, she has a nice secondary ability that actually adds some extra defense in the deck just because of our different card synergies, where during the opponent's turn, when an opponent plays a Digimon, then we get to play 1 purple level 4 or lower Digimon from our trash for free. Any on-play effects do not activate. So ideally, we're going to be rezzing our blocker, so that way we could just recursively use our blocker to stop and stall out some of the opponent's actions. Then on top of that, she has an on-delete ability, which is arguably the most important ability on this card, where if the opponent has 2 or less Digimon in play, then we get to play 1 purple level 5 or lower Digimon, or 1 Minervamon from our trash for free. We currently don't have Minervamon in the set. She's going to be coming out in BT11, so right now we're just going to be using her ability to be able to spawn a level 5 Digimon, which is going to be either Cerberumon, Cerberumon Werewolf Mode, or Lucemon, depending on the situation and setup. Next, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Lilithmon. So Lilithmon was the original loop enabler, and she's still pretty good to be able to synergize with our options and allow us to reuse and set up our options even more effectively and efficiently. So she has a nice when digivolving ability, where if we have 10 or more cards in our trash, then we get to return up to 2 purple options from our trash to our hand. So that just allows us to grab back whatever options that we need, on top of the fact that during your turn, once per turn, when you use an option card, then we get to gain 2 memory, essentially making our options more efficient to use, so that way we could make more powerful plays possible. And then I'm also going to be running 1 copy of Creepymon as another alternative loop enabler. So what this card is doing is he has a nice when digivolving ability, where we get to trash the top 2 cards of our deck for each of the opponent's Digimon in play. Then if we trashed 4 or more cards due to his effect, then we get to play a level 5 or lower purple Digimon from our trash for free. So again, it's just allowing us to be able to set up and reuse our level 5s to be able to use them in various different ways depending on the loop that we're trying to go for. Then on top of that, he has a nice when attacking ability that can actually be pretty annoying for the opponent, because once per turn, for every 10 cards in our trash, we get to trash 3 off the top of the opponent's deck, acting as some good mill for the opponent's deck, and this Digimon gains a plus 3000 DP to make him 14k when he's going to be swinging, so he's going to be a pretty decent card to be aggressing with. Next, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Death Xmon. So Death Xmon is kind of a tech card. If you wanted to use Omnimon Zwart, then by all means do so, just because Zwart has some good enabling of combo play himself. But because the loop is more centered around Minervamon, I didn't necessarily think it was that useful, and I felt like Death Xmon is a better card to be able to handle a wide variety of different situations, just because he has the alternative ability to play himself even easier, because he can reduce his play cost by 3 for each of the opponent's Digimon and Tamers that they have in play, with an on-play and when digivolving ability of being able to de-digivolve 1 on all of the opponent's Digimon, and then delete all of the opponent's Digimon that's level 4 or lower. So it's just acting as a good board clear, or at least removal tool when we're going to be playing him, and he also has some built-in recursive removal, where at the end of the opponent's turn, once per turn, we get to delete all of the opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost, trying to keep their field as clear as we possibly can, as we're slowly trying to chip and aggress and be able to combo off. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Jackraid. So Jackraid is just a card to help us gain some extra memory to make our plays even more efficient, just because it has the main ability where we get to gain 1 memory for every 10 cards in our trash. So if we have 20 cards in our trash, then we're going to gain 2 memory. If we have 30, we're going to gain 3 memory, and that's just a lot of extra memory to be able to do various different things with, while also acting as a good anti-tempo security threat of being able to gain 2 memory, effectively taking away 2 memory from the opponent. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Revive from the Darkness. So this is the big combo enabling option that allows us to make some very powerful plays in combination with our Minervamon and in combination with both of our Cerberumons. So what this card is doing is it allows us to delete 1 of our purple Digimon, and then we get to play a level 5 or lower purple Digimon from our trash for free, but we don't get the on-play effects. We don't necessarily care about not getting the on-play effects, because we're going to be spawning the Cerberumon off of this card, and then ideally Minervamon is going to be spawning the Werewolf Mode to be able to line up some combo play to be able to gain a lot of extra memory to then be able to set up another loop. And then it has the nice security ability of being able to add itself into our hand, so that way we can figure out when is the best time to be able to loop and combo off. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Calling from the Darkness. So Calling from the Darkness is a card that just allows us to trigger our on-delete abilities ourselves, while also being able to reuse Digimon from our trash. So the main ability states that we get to delete 1 of the Digimon on our field. Then we get to return up to 2 purple Digimon cards from our trash to our hand. The crazy thing about this card is even if we don't have a Digimon in play, based on the wording, we could still just be able to use this card to be able to grab 2 purple Digimon back from our trash, which all of our Digimon in the deck are purple. Then it has the security ability where we get to add this card into our hand to figure out when and how we want to be able to utilize this card. And then for another ability to try to help us self-delete our Digimon for when we want to while acting as a solid control tool, I'm going to be running one copy of Deathclaw. So Deathclaw just allows us to delete one of our Digimon to then delete one of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon, with the security ability of being able to delete one of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon, making it just a good card to synergize with the deck. And then as far as tamers go, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Mat Ishida. So this is the BT2 version of Mat Ishida, and it's going to be the deck's dedicated memory fixer. So that way, if our memory is ever less than 3, he'll just always hard set it to 3, which just allows us to digivolve into Minervamon and then be able to combo off from there. On top of the fact that he has a pretty decent on-play ability where we get to return 1 purple Digimon or 1 purple option card from our trash into our hand, so that way we could be able to reuse whatever we feel like we need to. And then the last card and last tamer of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Analog Youth. So Analog Youth is a pretty powerful card at not only just being able to help set up our hand and help set up our trash, but it has some nice synergy when our level 5 or higher Digimon is going to be deleted as long as they have an inheritable source. So its on-play ability states that we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, add 1 Digimon from among them into our hand, and then trash the rest. So it's just acting as a good digger for the deck while being a cheap 2-costed tamer to be able to use. Then its secondary ability actually does matter, where during all turns, when one of your level 5 or higher Digimon with Digivolution sources is deleted, then we get to suspend this tamer to gain 1 memory and hatch 1 Digi-Egg into an empty space in our raising area. So ideally, we're going to be setting up a Minervamon, and then we're going to be deleting our Minervamon, triggering Analog Youth to be able to gain some extra memory and reload our raising area for some extra aggressive follow-up plays with. So essentially, here is just the core of the loop. We're going to be starting our turn ideally with a Minervamon on our field and a Cerberumon and Cerberumon Werewolf Mode in our trash. Then we're going to be casting Revive from the Darkness, paying for memory, to be able to delete our Minervamon. So we have to finish resolving the option before the on-delete ability of Minervamon can proceed, so we're going to res using the option, the Cerberumon. Then, using Minervamon's on-delete ability, now that the option is done resolving, we're going to be reviving the Cerberumon Werewolf Mode. That allows us to use Cerberumon Werewolf Mode's on-play ability to be able to delete the Cerberumon and be able to gain memory back, and we could then loop from here and go into another Minervamon on top of it for 3, and another Calling from the Darkness will put us at 2 to be able to then delete it and basically start all over again, with it being able to replay the loop, essentially gaining us 2 memory every single time that we're going to be going through the full loop, and we could use that memory to do various different things with, all depending on how your deck is set up and what types of plays that your deck is enabling, on top of any other combo extenders or combo pieces that you feel like you're going to be including inside of it. And then we still just have a whole bunch of various different tech and tools to be able to incorporate into the deck, all depending on what kind of cards that you actually want to gain out of the deck and what you're trying to tech for or against. So you could be utilizing Cerberumon as a really good and cheap card to help us draw some cards and aggress into the opponent. Then, if you wanted to, you could think about using Tsukaimon just because he's synergizing with our on-delete ability off of our higher stages, and he helps us gain a memory versus drawing cards and discarding cards, so he makes our plays a little bit more efficient. Then, on top of that, we do have Elecmon to act as some solid low-level control for doing something very similar to Cerberumon. Then, if you wanted to, you could run Vilemon as just a bigger blocker. It doesn't necessarily matter which one you use, just because ideally we're going to be reviving them off of our Minervamon, but Vilemon is going to be a pretty decent card if you don't have access to the Devimon. Then we have the rest of the promote package that we could think about incorporating. So Kinkakumon will help us be able to discard cards and delete the opponent's low-level Digimon, while Ginkakumon allows us to gain memory when we're discarding cards. And then we also have Skullgreymon and various other discard fodder cards to think about utilizing just because, well, we're already discarding cards. So similarly to that, we also have Nidhoggmon as a good supporting level 6 to be able to gain some extra tempo. But if you wanted to, you could also think about utilizing Mastimon from BT3, just because she allows us to also burn the opponent's security, which could be really important if we're trying to play a little bit more aggressively. On top of the fact that we could use her ability to res a level 4 Digimon, so if we need a blocker, then we could spawn a blocker, or if we want to use Promote to be able to swing with right away, then that line of play is open to us as well. And then, like I stated before, if you want to run a different level 7 in the deck, then you could just run Omnimon's Warts, just because Omnimon's Wart was the original combo piece with our Lilithmon and our Creepymon. Then we do have some other really decent option cards for us to utilize, so we could utilize Back for Revenge to be able to replay our Minervamon. That's going to be deleted, so that way we can make even more powerful combo plays. Then we do have Dead or Alive if we are going to be planning on running more Lucemon, just because it's a good combo piece with Lucemon to res our Lucemon, and then use Lucemon to delete one of the opponent's Digimon or Tamers. Then we do have various other cards that could help us to delete our Digimon for various benefits, so Pandemonium Flame is another really good one that's acting as some solid control, on top of various other control-based option cards that you feel like you want to incorporate. Then we do have a slew of different memory boosts for us to be utilizing, all depending, again, on what you're trying to actually gain out of the deck. So you could use a Glaive memory boost to try to res cards out of our grave, Mist memory boost to try to self-mill to set up our trash, and then we also have Purple memory boost just to act as the default generic one to be able to act as a good digging tool to try to find our parts and pieces, while they're all being memory boosts to help us gain some memory at a later turn to make, again, more powerful plays possible. And then a good alternative tamer that you could run, just because we are trying to play our options, is going to be Mimi, to make the use of our options even more efficient and the use of the opponent's options less efficient all in one card. But for the most part, this is just my interpretation on what I think a MinervaLoop deck is going to do in BT10, and I think this is going to be a really strong deck, but this is going to be a deck that's a little bit harder to play than some of your other decks, just because of all of the different moving pieces, all of the different setups, and all of the different loop possibilities, also depending on how you're going to be building the deck and adapting to the various metas that you could be playing in. So it's going to be a very hard deck, but it's going to be a very rewarding deck once you have that base level understanding and know your different matchups and know how to actually play the deck. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.